gluten-free pie crust is flaky and easy to make. We're going to start by cubing and freezing the butter. Butter is the key to a flaky crust, and we want to keep it as cold as possible. Time to make our dough. The gluten-free flour I'm using contains xanthan gum, which helps these types of products be stickier. I highly recommend you use a product containing this ingredient. I'm also adding salt and a bit of sugar. The sugar helps the pie crust turn a more golden color while baking. You could leave it out, but the color may suffer. Now the butter goes into the mixer. If you do not have a mixer, I recommend using a pastry blender. Because the butter is so cold, it won't completely mix into the flour. This is good. The butter layers will create pockets in the dough, which then create a more flaky crust. I'm now going to add a tablespoon of white vinegar. While the taste will bake out, the vinegar will help the crust stay tender and will help the crust brown more. Now I will start adding the liquid to the dough. I'm using very cold ice water to help keep the butter from melting. I start with a couple of tablespoons and add more as needed. When the dough begins looking like it's clumping together, I stop blending and squeeze them together. As you can see, it's easily holding together. This tells me that the dough is ready. I then press all of the dough together into a thick disc, cover with plastic wrap, and place into the refrigerator. Again, this is to help keep the butter very cold. I like to refrigerate the dough for at least 30 minutes. Now it's time to roll out the dough. My dough is a little hard to roll due to how cold it is, so I'm going to squeeze the dough for a few seconds to warm it up just a little. I like to roll out the dough on either plastic wrap or parchment paper. Not only does this help clean up, but it will assist in getting the dough onto the pan without falling apart. Use flour as needed to keep the dough from sticking to the rolling pan. Slowly roll out the dough, pressing evenly. We want a crust that is about 1/8 inch thick. This recipe makes enough dough for a deep dish pie pan. Here you can see the difference between a regular pan and a deep dish pan. After a successful crust flip, I lightly press the dough and cut the edges with a knife. If there is part of the edge not covered by dough, just take an extra piece and press it in. Once it bakes, you'll never notice it. I'm just pressing my thumb in sideways to make a nice little edge to the crust. There are many different ways to crimp the edge of the pie. Check out my recipe for the perfect pumpkin pie that uses no dairy or eggs. The pie crust is now ready to be baked or filled.